So, Mark, if I may start, you're on record as being a massive Doctor Who fan, and this is going back to the source, to the origin story, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, for you, what was most important to get across in the story you wanted to tell? Like, you had to narrow it down to fit into a film format. So,
Yeah.
what did you want to get at? What did you want to?
Well, I suppose what has always appealed to me, and I think there's something lovely about if you know anything famous, it's always nice to see where it came from, and to show you love or thing you love. It's fascinating to think how all kinds of small happy accidents created the thing, as opposed to a great big game plan. There's so many things about Doctor Who which are, it's, to me, still part of its charm. If they'd had tons of money, the Doctor would have been flying around in a very expensive flying saucer, but they didn't. So they came up with the idea that the TARDIS would change shape and blend in. But they thought, well, that's expensive as well, because we'd have to. And then someone said, well, what if it gets stuck? Great, and we still got it. And that's the. I love that. It's like coming at it using your wits as opposed to just saying, oh well, we did anything we like. And that element of these unlikely people, Sidney Newman and Virgin Lambert, Wallace Hussein, and William Hartnell. They're such an odd bunch, very youthful, and Sidney Newman wasn't young, but he had an incredible youthful energy and a new world spirit which really sort of zhuzhed up the BBC. And Bill Hartnell, who is also an oddity in that group, because he loved them, and they all became a very tight group, even though he was a curmudgeonly man, not as old as he liked to make out. But that's what I love about it. It's a little show that could.
But the one actor I've ever heard of that he loved playing older.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we all like to think we can still play.
Yes,
right. But he relished playing the older character actor, because he was a proper character actor in the true sense of the word.
And I think if you watch him in a film like The Way Ahead, which is brilliant, Brighton Rock, where he's playing a hard, spiffy character, and then in This Sporting Life, where he plays an old, useless old man, those are the two films that Rachel Lambert thought, look at that, and basically sort of brought the two things together. I think he's terrific, a terrific film actor. I think one of the things that sort of really troubled him about doing TV is that in film he just had a lot longer to get it right, and suddenly the demands of virtually live television were terrifying, as they still are.
So you're already working with the BBC so closely, so you have access to the goodies. How much research did you have to do for this to put it together, and what did you get to see that you were surprised to find?
Well, I knew, to me, it's a story I've grown up with. I've always known about this as a Doctor Who fan. But actually what I wanted to do was sort of get to the root of it, because like a lot of things, they can become like urban legends. You think, is that actually true? I've just grown up with that story. So I did interviews with a lot of people from the time, and then a lot of research people who've gone. And I did turn up a few things. I mean, but mostly after 50 years, people have told the same story a lot. But it was nice to do it knowing that this project was happening. That sort of thrill liked me. And it was really fascinating to get people's first-hand accounts of Bill Hartnell, and also just the whole process, and the BBC at the time. There are a few things I wish I'd been able to put in, but it is about the focus. That's the thing, and it's. There are a few very important people who are just not in it, but you can't do that. Otherwise, it just becomes a documentary.
What were the important things that you felt were necessary to kind of weave into the 50th anniversary that were just kind of important, visual cues or things like that?
For the anniversary? Well, it sort of takes care of itself, really, because these things like the Daleks or how the TARDIS or rebuilding the original TARDIS set. I mean, I knew what they were going to do to long-term fans, and the pictures that have been released have done exactly that. People have just, their heads have exploded. It's like, as mine did. But I wasn't tailoring anything specifically for the anniversary, because I think by telling the story of how it began, that's what I'm doing. And I just think I'm very happy. I'm so happy it's worked out this way, because it's such a good companion piece to the actual episode, the anniversary episode. In a way, you watch this first to see how it happened, and then you can catch up and really start again, I suppose. And now we're going to have a new Doctor. It's like, it's a jumping on point, as Doctor Who is every few years. There's a little moment where you can just say, well, I'll start here then. Start with David.
But going back to the TARDIS and the console, which there's a little bit in the film about this, when the set was late being built, it's all very last minute. It's easy to imagine that the whole thing arrived fully formed because they knew they had a success on their hands.
Yeah.
The film's really about all the fact that difficulty and all the different personalities involved, the fact that it nearly didn't happen. But he, in rehearsals, he makes a fuss about all the different controls on the console, and nobody's thought to describe each one, what they do. And he recognised that he said, children are cleverer than you think. They'll know if I press that button this week, and I press that to open the doors, and if the next week I might press the same button to blow us all up, and kids will spot that. So he had to know exactly what the function of each button and lever was, and he was, quite fastidious about that. And some people might have said, oh, he's a little bit over fussy, but he was clever enough to know that kids spot these kinds of things, these little inconsistencies. So you can't afford to patronise them and say, oh, they won't notice.
And I think that's what he found difficult, was when, as the years went by and then the production changed, people would come in and he, by that stage, he knew what it was, his show and his part, and he became very proprietorial about it.
David, what does it mean to you to be sort of basically an honorary doctor? I mean, what did you grow up with having a favourite, or did you like?
I didn't have a particular favourite. I was kind of I still remember I accepted the fact that it was a different Doctor, and I saw quite a lot of the other ones. I remember half of them certainly, and I was sort of in my teens, late teens, I think. And then I remember them all, really. But without watching every episode, I would kind of like just sometimes miss one or two, but I always kept in touch with it.
What was your impression of Hartnell when you watched him?
He doesn't do impressions.
It was rather bad.
Yeah. Well, not only was he a superb character actor, I mean, at the time, I remember I saw The Sporting Life when it first came out, and Brighton Rock, and I watched that again recently, and I thought, wow, what an assured, brilliantly quick-witted actor he was, and inventive, and how different he was in those two films particularly. You said he plays someone quite older than himself and vulnerable in This Sporting Life. And there was this rather dangerous guy in Brighton Rock. He wouldn't mess with him, and it was clear that he was later on he was in a comedy series called The Army Game, which was very successful. But now when I look at it again, I thought, God, it makes me cringe, because this came on our screens after Sergeant Bilko. And that was so fantastic, funny, and the Armour Game was, I mean, like the Michael Medlin character was a kind of Bilko, kind of sharp guy, and I could understand his frustration of being in this series for about 5 years or something. Playing the one character in it that didn't get any laughs because he was like the authority figure, the straight man and the sergeant major, and.
I've got a picture. You carry on. I've got another picture you must see.
Okay.
From the Army Game.
And I think the praise he got and the recognition he got for his film performances, I think he thought it would lead to bigger and better things. and then being stuck in the series, and then being asked to do a series for kiddies, you know, and being creative. I mean, when he first met Verity and Warris, he thought these are just kids with a silly sci-fi idea, and then I think people generally were cynical about the Daleks. Who's going to be interested in dustbins with a bath plunger on the front, you know? And he was kind of reluctant, but once he got the part, and after the first disastrous pilot was scrapped, he wanted to play it lighter and get more fun out of it. And I think once he got that element of the character, he embraced it fully. He just enjoyed the fact that children all over the country were into this.
They loved it.
Yeah. And so, but it was, as I said before, that all the contradictions in his nature were what interested me. Because of his insecurity from his early difficult years. Occasionally that would explode and he would give people a bad time. It was interesting for me finding out the reasons why he behaved like this, rather than just play, oh, he's grumpy in this scene, I'll just play grumpy. Standard irritation number 5. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.